Hey guys, today I'm going to do a little bit of a special episode, and this is really around equipment for making Chinese soups or teas. I get these questions all the time. What equipment are you using? Can I use an Instant Pot? What about a pressure cooker? And so me personally, I don't have any of those special type of technology other than my rice cooker and a thermal pot. But I do have friends that have used Instant Pots and pressure cookers and crock pots to make their soups, especially the frozen ones that I've given them. And so what I'll do is just a quick introduction of the equipment that I'm using to make my soups. And to be honest with you, it's enough. I'm able to make most of the teas, definitely the soups, and some of the more herbal soups, and even Chinese medicine in all the equipment that I have right now. So let's get started. I'm going to start with the very traditional way in which traditional Chinese medicine is made. And back then it was made in clay pots. And so you can definitely use clay. That's pretty common for medicine. However, these days there's been a lot of shift into ceramic or glass. And so I'm a big fan of ceramic. I have so many ceramic pots, and they come in different sizes depending on what I'm making for how many people. And so the smallest one here is something that you can just get on Amazon. I'll have a link in the description. And this is great for like one bowl for 3 or 4 people, or if you're making a one-person stew. So I'll do this if I'm using it for like kimchi stew, a tofu stew. This is really great for one person, myself. And then I've got one of my favorite pots, and some of you have seen me use it, is my Donald Duck one. He's also ceramic, so it's about 1.5 liters worth of water, and it's not a lot of soup. So these smaller pots I tend to use for more herbal and dense soups. So where there's a little more herbal medicine in it, so if I'm using dong quai, reishi mushrooms, astragalus, cottonopsis, that's where I'll use something more ceramic based and smaller portions, because what I'm looking for is that density of flavor and that intensity of the ingredients and just the action, so that all I've got is just one soup per person and we're good. So I'll typically use this pot if I'm making like a very healing herbal chicken soup, the postpartum ones or the post-menstruation ones, which I've talked about. This is perfect for that. I do have bigger ceramic pots. Actually, I also have a bigger Corningware pot, but I've got this one as well where I will make stews as well, one pot meals. And this is also really great for the whole family. So a little harder to wash, it's bigger, but we're talking about maybe 2.5 liters worth of volume for this. And these are great because they actually do sit on the stove top. So either gas or electric stove are perfect, not induction. And they do work really well, and they do retain their heat. The next type of pot that I use quite a bit is the non-reactive stainless steel. And this actually, for even Chinese medicine, we're taught that it's still okay if you must use stainless steel. They don't react, so they're great. So I do have these for blanching, or if I'm making a smaller portion of soup, I can, and sometimes we'll use stainless steel pots. The most common stainless steel pot for me though is my handy dandy thermal pot. It's this one, and I talk about this one quite a bit. Essentially what this pot is one, there's 2 layers in this pot, right? So there's this outer thermal layer, which is thicker and kind of almost like a big thermos. But then you've got this inner smaller pot, which is the stainless steel portion. And this is what you put on the stove top to boil. And as soon as this is done and hot and it's got that retained energy of that heat, what you want to do is then just put it into your thermal pot, close it, and walk away. And the idea is that the thermos of this technology, because it is quite thick, is able to retain its heat for many hours. So I'll usually set it, for example, like 9 to 10 in the morning. I'll have the soup done in the pot, and by the time I get back at 3 or 4, it's still pretty hot. I'll put it on the stovetop, reheat it, and then serve for dinner. So this is the great thing about this pot, is that it's energyless, in that it's using retained energy, and you don't have to look after it, right? It doesn't need to sit on the stovetop. There's no heat. So these are the 2 pots that I actually do use the most. However, I also do use the cast iron. And this is the thing with cast iron though, is that because it is iron in its more natural state, I don't often use it for herbal soups, right? And this is just because I don't want the interaction of those herbs. But if you're doing like very basic vegetable soups, such as so like your green radish, carrots with pork, perfect. And I'll use it as like a one pot and actually take it to the dinner table and serve it like that, which is perfect, right? And so I'll put noodles in there from vermicelli. I'll also put like balls, meatballs. And so that's where it comes into that more like one pot meal. The other equipment that I do use, and I do recommend a lot of the times, is my rice cooker. And so again, any rice cooker will do. However, I have had various inputs from people that talk about like the differences of rice cookers and how they do cook, which is true because the technology is all different. Sometimes their vent systems are different, their temperatures, how they regulate, every system is different. I personally really love the Zoji Rushi breads. This is the one that I use in Hong Kong, and this is the one I'm using in Canada right now. Rice cooker is perfect if everything is preset, pre-cut, ready to go. So all you need to do is take out your soup pack or your soup, drop it into the rice cooker, fill with water, press cook, and it just cooks on its own. So this is one of the more easier equipments that I actually do use to make soups in. The only thing is that like you have to consider if you're having rice that meal is, all right, how you're gonna make your rice versus how you're gonna make your soup. But what's really good about the rice cooker is that anyone can do it. So my kids have been using this rice cooker cooking method for as long as I can remember, since we've kind of come to Canada and when they were really small. All right, let's move on to making teas. So for me, there are really essentially two ways to make herbal teas, Chinese teas at home. The first is if the ingredients need a little more time to really boil, release its properties and actions, is where I'll use a stovetop safe glass like this. And it's up to you whether you want to separate the ingredients or not. However, the whole point of this is just to allow the ingredients to boil gently and cook for a little bit longer. So for example, ingredients like lotus seeds, lily bulbs, those need a little more time to extract flavors. Ingredients that are more light, so lightweight, such as flowers, your florals, dragonite, dried red dates, some of the fruits, the dried fruits, can extract quite easily in steeped water. And so that's where I just use a cup like this, where you can actually separate the ingredients and steep it. And so ginseng is really great for this as well, although ginseng can be boiled as well. So depending on the ingredient is actually going to determine what pot or how you're going to cook it. And that's where really learning the ingredient, its nature, its actions, and how you extract the properties is actually quite important to set as a base, because that will also indicate how you're going to cook it. All right, so then let's talk about pressure cookers. Crock pots, not so much, but Instapots. So pressure cookers and Instapots, they're designed on the theory of pressure. And so from a formula perspective, if you're going to increase pressure, then you can theoretically reduce time, assuming that heat is the same and volume. And so this is the lever that really brings the benefit of pressure cookers and instant pots, is that they're reducing the time it takes to cook to make the same extraction of flavors and of the ingredients. And so, for example, if you're going to do a chicken herbal soup, I would typically boil it for, let's say, 2 to 3 hours. However, an Instant Pot, you can do it in 45, and the flavor is exactly the same. And so this is the benefit of technology. I personally actually do still use the thermal pots for this, or the stovetop. It's on a really low heat, just bubbling for 3 hours. And that's what that Chinese soup is all about. There's a category of Chinese soup that really has a little bit more length, and what we're trying to do is really extract more flavors. And so that's the benefit of the pressure cooker or the Instant Pot. You can definitely use that. I've had friends try it, turns out the same, and it works, so it's perfect. Crock pot's a little different because crock pot is got time as the element of input. That's really the benefit of that technology. And so it's just low heat, on time, little use of energy. You could just set it, kind of forget it, walk away, which works equally well for those longer boils and more extraction of flavors. But if you're doing quick boils, I would not use any of this technology. I would just simply do it on the stovetop with either ceramic pot or stainless steel and let it bubble on the stovetop and just watch it. So quick boil is where it's small pieces done really quickly, really for flavor, that quick soup. So you've got like egg dropped like that, beef balls, or just like sliced beef, sliced liver, sliced pork, anything sliced tends to be the quick bowl version. You can find a whole set of quick bowl soups, but longer bowls as well, on the site. If there's a certain pot or a certain question that you have that I haven't addressed, leave it in the comments and I will definitely get to it. Other things that are super helpful when you're making soups. And again, for me, I'm pretty simple in the equipment that I use and need. You don't need a lot actually to make a really easy, simple, delicious Chinese soup. But one thing I do suggest is this thin oil scooper. See how thin it is? That mesh is tiny, tiny, tiny. And what it does let through is water, but not oil. Or, of course, the bigger pieces of debris. But the key is the oil. It's able to catch that oil film that sits on top because of the size of the molecules is bigger than that of water. And so the water will come through, it will strain through this, but you're able to reserve the oil layers. And so just scoop that on top. So there's a few ways to go about it. I mean, if you really want to reduce oil content in your soups, blanching, a pre-blanch is definitely going to help. It will remove the foam, the debris, the bone bits, and the oil. And so that's the first thing that I will do for more chicken and fatty parts of the pork, like sometimes the back or the legs. However, this is a must-have as well, especially if you want to strain some of the floating things and the oil. The other thing that's super useful for making Chinese soups, and I'm going to open this, this is brand new, is what's called a soup bag. And so the soup bag essentially looks like a muslin bag. And this size is perfect, right? Because essentially you can get all the ingredients that you in. And this is really great for smaller ingredients such as beans, barley, lotus seeds, where you don't want it scattering all over the soup. And traditionally they were scattered, all the soup. You would just eat everything together. However, I find for cleanup and for the kids, they don't like the stuff in the soup. And so it's just easier for me to put all the loose ingredients into a soup bag like this. This is also really great if you're using fish. Actually, it's almost a must-have if you're planning to use fish in your soups, especially small fish. However, all fish. So the idea of making fish soup is this, and I've posted about it before. You can check the links that I'm going to drop as well, is that pan fry. So what you want to do is pan fry the fish first with a bit of ginger, just to create that fragrant umami flavors, so that as it goes into the soup, that can come out as well. And it's also to seal in and remove some of the fishiness, that fishy taste and smell that is often associated with fish as a protein, and that's just how it is. And so as soon as I'm finished frying both the ginger and the fish, I will put it into this bag and then drop it into my soup. And therefore, when it disintegrates, if it disintegrates, it will disintegrate, it's going to be all kept in the soup. Flesh, bones, everything, and it's perfect. You can buy these off Amazon. In most Asian supermarkets, you will find these as soup bags in either like the home aisle where they sell all their chopsticks and spoons. And so what I will do is pre-wash them, sometimes pre-boil them, like just to get it clean, have it dry, and then keep it in my pantry so that I'll use it anytime I'm making fish soups or need it. This is actually really good for vegetable scraps as well, right? And so I've got frozen veggie scraps sometimes that I like to add for flavor and not waste, and I'll put them in these little soup bags as well. So this is another must-have in your kitchen, especially if you're going to make fish soups, or you've got a lot of little pieces of herbs or ingredients that you use. This is actually perfect for cleanup. You can just throw it out in the organic and wash it and reuse. Okay, so the last piece of equipment that I actually want to talk about today is not really for making soup, but it's great for making soup packs. And so I'm all about efficiency, right? And just economies of scale. And so I bought actually a few different type of food seals. And so this one's a very simple one that I got off Temu. You can also get them off Amazon. And basically it's for me to make either frozen soup packs that are pre-boiled, pre-cooked, or ones that are not, right? And so I'm actually just putting the ingredients into packs, and then you drop it in the rice cooker, and that's how I cook it. And so what you'll need with that are these soup bags. And so I do recommend getting ones that are actually pre-sealed on one side. I've found the ones that have like the full roll, the one side is just not as stable or strong, and there could be leakage sometimes, but these ones are the best, where it's pre-sealed on one side, you just fill and seal on the other side. So this is something else fun to try, and I've got like so many different variations of soups that I've made as frozen, so both pre-cooked and then not cooked, right? And so it's a time saver for me, honestly. It takes me about an hour maybe to make 8 soup packs, and then that's saving me the time to prep all that, like especially if you're doing meats and vegetables. And that's it for today's episode around equipment, just basic starter equipment for making soups. You actually really don't need that much. Really, a pot. Any pot will do, preferably either ceramic, glass, or stainless steel. Those are your best options. And that's it. That's how you get started. If you have any questions, thoughts, or something that really works for you, leave it in the comments below and let's explore. You can download my starter's guide to making Chinese soups. I talk about equipment, your basic pantry, and where and how to get started. Happy soup and tea making, and I'll see you next time.